Hey guys, I'm here to get into the film Amadeus, which was released in the year 1984 and directed by Miloš Forman. This is just his other gigantic project he made along with One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, which just holds up significantly better, just perfectly with age. Honestly, I mean, this instantly struck as a perfect film when I first saw it, and it just gets because it's just consistent at depicting just kind of like musical rivalry and exactly where a lot of that like gets exhausting in depths of like envy, and this just kind of satirizes all of that perfectly. And I've always loved how this kind of washes over just this very chilling depiction of just like musical rivalry and just the madness that kind of stems from all that, because you literally have Mozart and then a guy who's like friends with him, then he just starts to get, there's just too much madness that basically happens and all that. So this is just kind of a 3 hour kind of like satire. Again, the screenplay is hilarious all throughout this film. It never takes itself too seriously once, really. Like this whole thing just kind of feels over the top and a little insane in the best kind of way. It makes you kind of just question everything that you're seeing and every character's like truest motive, you could say, in a lot of ways. But this film just really resonates a lot with my love for music and like the darkest shades that I find in a lot of my love for music, where I think the darkest shade is that I realize music points me to more of a question mark, while film is a lot more of an answer for me. I sincerely 100% believe in that for me personally. And a lot of this film that kind of resonates to a lot of why I think is it really does drive a lot of maddening over ambition that like, well, I think that like that's just a level that just, again, it causes a lot of tension in heads, and I think film just, you can equalize and balance all that. I found in my journey a lot smoother, and this film kind of speaks to a lot of that and satirizes a lot of that too, you could say. But I just love every frame of this film. I saw this numerous times this past year, and it's just completely mesmerizing, completely entertaining. And it just has like so many layers of control, and every single like moment of the screenplay is just so detail oriented, and it's just completely masterful from start to finish. Like, I mean, all throughout, some of the amazing use of music. It's a true original. Like Miloš Forman's an original director. Like he's very humanistic. Like it feels like a Stanley Kubrick kind of outlook, but more of a more humanistic, most certainly in its own kind of way. It used to have energy. I feel like whenever I watch a Miloš Forman project like this and Cuckoo's Nest, like I feel like I'm just up for date. I've literally, they've given me insomnia because they have so much energy in them, especially doing a screenplay recital for this film. There's so much energy that I was up for a few days after my last viewing, because this was just so much to take in, and just such a like powerhouse. Like this film is so powerful. Despite never taking itself seriously, like it's just kind of a perfect mix to be on. That's an unbelievable kind of story from start to finish. All this is really entertaining and just depicting like the music world and the classical world. It really perfectly reflects like the modern music world just as well, I feel like. I mean, this was a very timeless kind of story and foundation that just, this is a perfect 3 hours right here. And it's an extremely entertaining story all throughout. Never takes itself too serious. It's always got this kind of loose kind of quality that, again, the screenplay just, it's always funny. It's always like a little like scarring also in its own kind of way. Like it's a little challenge, like, it'll like kind of almost challenge you. Like I feel like I've watched this growing up, and it like challenged me in a lot of ways. And now I'm like, I really appreciate that, and that's the way this film kind of does, like takes you through it all that. And I just love Mozart's perspective on all this next to this guy who's just kind of standing in the shadow. And there's just all this humanity that kind of depicts in the characterization from start to finish. And I mean, it kind of just shows like how it's just like, man, that showdown stuff is just so useless. It's just like, better to use an imagination in the film world, honestly. So that's just like you don't have to actually confront like all that stuff. You can kind of just see it all as a joke in the end, as the film kind of really communicates to view all that. I've always 100% resonated with that my whole life. I think that, envy is one of the worst moods to be consumed by personally. And I think when that happens, I do kind of have a way of personally always clouding that out to something of a personal kind of, for a personal kind of dominance, you could say, to the point where it all balances out. And I just don't, none of that really affects me, you could say. It's just a perception, and it doesn't define anything. This is just a perfect depiction of the music world and its beauty. Like it explores like a hatred in a lot of characters too. Like it kind of explores all that in a way where, like, again, the music world can really bring out a lot of like complicated emotions, you could say. And this is a film that's just like, wow, yeah, a lot of that's overbearing to be in a social setting all the time. That's why I think I really found my musical life in a very independent kind of way, because there's so many complicated emotions to music. Like sometimes it's very light, sometimes it's very dark. It's just like, you can wear all that. I just personally, I mean, this is just entirely personal, but I like to go through the film route of just perceiving these exact same moods for this reason, because it's like, well, you can kind of flush all this out and laugh at like the strangest kind of like emotions that happen along the way. This is just a perfect character study, and it just kind of makes you feel something from start to finish, honestly. And every time I rewatch it, it always watches new layers of details, you could say. It's really unpredictable in characterization. You just really never know where it's going next. I mean, it's very kind of intense in its own kind of way too. There's always this looming intensity kind of a little haunting in its own way because it's just like, wow, yeah, this genuinely feels like kind of some of these just feel like really rotten shades to be around. Some of this feels a little gross. As again, honest to the music world, like it's part of all this. It always has been, and there's just kind of this just particular just perfection about this kind of dark comedy perspective. This is exactly resonating, exactly the way I love it. It reminds you. It's just really kind of great sense of humor. Reminds you a lot of like the humor that you see in Kubrick's Barry Lyndon. Also, you could say. I mean, but this is a unique amount of just control here. This is perfectly recommended from start to finish. As every shot manages to hold up perfectly. So this gets strongly recommended.